The next demonstration addresses a missing or damaged facepiece or mask mounted regulator.
The last situation I want to talk about from a rapid intervention standpoint is when we come across a downed firefighter who's missing their facepiece or their regulator or MMR hose is damaged in some fashion. Now, either one of those is going to be a rare event, but it's important that we still know how to address it if it does occur. So let's take a look at each one individually. Finding a firefighter down with their facepiece off. How could that happen? Well, one situation can be where the firefighter ran out of air unexpectedly. You go to take a breath, you got nothing, they panic, they're stressed out, they were breathing heavy, they don't even think about going to their bypass, they tear off their facepiece, they get a breath of bad air, and it's lights out. Another situation where the facepiece could be off would be a collapse. Let's say they fall through a basement floor or even a roof. Now, if you look at the profile, the presentation of the mask, you can see how the MMR projects out farther. So as they're falling through a tight space, the MMR could get caught on the threshold of the roof or the floor or some type of structural member, a joist, a rafter, maybe a pipe, piece of conduit, or even wires. And as it catches here and your body weight's hanging from this, it torques the mask and tears it off. They hit the ground, facepiece is off, same situation, they take a breath of bad air and it's lights out and their mask is laying next to them. So those are two situations where the mask still may be right by their body, but off their face. And the mask still may be intact. The third situation is when you come across that firefighter and there's a loss of integrity from the regulator or the MMR hose. So this is damaged in some way or fashion. Maybe the hose is cut or severed. Remember, this is a lower pressure hose than that high pressure hose that we have on the RIT pack or on the bottle leading to the first stage regulator of our SCBA. So this isn't as heavy duty or as reinforced. So it's more susceptible to being cut or damaged or even burnt. Now, manufacturers are trying to make them more durable, but it's still going to be more susceptible than a higher pressure line. So this could be damaged as you're falling through in that collapse. This could get caught on something. The regulator could get caught on something. If you envision your whole body weight hanging from this, because this is caught up in the rafters or joists or around a pipe or wires, something is going to have to give. A 250-pound firefighter hanging from this, something may fail. So if we encounter any one of those situations, we need to know how to address it. And the way we have TOSA and the Groves Rescue Air Pack rigged and configured allows us a multitude of options to deal with a variety of situations in the fastest, most efficient way possible. So it's just really important that we know how to utilize these components in that manner to address different types of situations that we can encounter when a firefighter is down, out of air, or running out of air. So if we look at each one individually, breaking them down now on how we're going to address it, let's look at the facepiece laying next to the downed firefighter. So the RIT approaches this firefighter, they start doing their assessment. Just like I mentioned earlier, we need to multitask. If this facepiece is off laying next to that firefighter, you can bet that their air cylinder is empty. Okay, they ran out of air. So we need to get a firefighter to the back of the bottle and start transfilling air into this pack, while another firefighter is going to be checking the facepiece to make sure that we have integrity. If everything is sound, from the facepiece to the regulator to the hose to the SCBA, once you start transfilling air into the bottle, you should hear air rushing out of the facepiece. And the reason that's going to happen is because of the positive pressure feature or mechanism of our SCBAs. Air is just going to immediately start flowing. If you don't hear that air flowing, and let me just do an example right now. I'm going to open up the bottle. Now right now the regulator is reset. On the MSA, anytime that I connect up the regulator to the facepiece, I depress these buttons and that resets the regulator. Same thing when I remove it. I'm depressing the release buttons and that resets the regulator. There is no additional button like there is on some other manufacturers to trigger flow. Like on a Scott pack, you have a button where you can trigger the flow. The only way for us to trigger flow is to create that negative vacuum in the facepiece by breathing. I start hearing that air, as air is getting transfilled into the bottle, starts pouring out of the facepiece. I know that I have integrity here. I can put this facepiece on the firefighter and then start tightening it down. Remember, we always go chin first, and then we go the temples last. If I don't have air to the face piece, it's for a couple reasons. The regulator could have been reset, or I have a loss of integrity. Something's damaged on the regulator or on the hose itself. Now, as I just demonstrated, if the regulator was disconnected or reset somehow, there's no way that I'm going to be able to trigger flow. I can't pull this thing off in a smoke-filled environment, pull mine off and create a negative pressure. I'm not going to even, you know, some firefighters say, well, lift up your mask, take a hit of it. If I do that, I go to hook up again, it just reset itself. So my only option really at that point is to open up the bypass. Remember, if you're going through all of these steps, you want to at least get some airflow going to the face piece. There are some RITs that believe if this firefighter is found unconscious with their face piece off, there's no way for you to ascertain if they're in respiratory or full arrest. We're not doing a look, listen, and feel in a firefighting environment. So at that point, if they're not breathing, you think their heart's not beating, they're not going to worry about going through all these procedures, hooking up a face piece, getting air. They're just going to grab the firefighter and go. Rapid extraction. Grab and go, get them out as quick as they can, get them out of that IDLH environment. However, if you are making the conscious decision, you want to provide air to this firefighter. Who knows, you think maybe that getting some air to the face, having the face piece in place, protecting them, maybe it might trigger a response for them to breathe. Some believe that could be the case. If you're going through all the steps, you want to make sure that you're at least getting air to the face. So open up the bypass, get that air flowing, and then decide to extract. You go through all these steps, you transfer your air, and you don't have air to the face piece. Even when you open up the bypass, for us on Tulsa and the Grove, we're going to do a really quick check of the hose leading to the shoulder. Because remember, on the Grove we have that single disconnect. On Tulsa we have the Extend Air 1. So this could have been disconnected when they fell through the hole in the floor. Maybe they manually disconnected for some reason. We want to make sure that this is all in place. If it is, we've troubleshooted that and we still don't have air, our next option at that point is to remove this. The advantage of having our rescue air packs set up where they're compatible, they have the same push to connect regulator. On Tulsa and the Grove, we can remove this element. So I'm going to disconnect from the port or the extender on Tulsa, from the mask, and then I'm going to go to the rescue air pack. I'm going to take out the face piece. I'm going to disconnect the regulator from the face piece, and I'm going to disconnect from that extender port on the rescue air pack, and I'm just going to swap out these regulators to the face piece, to the shoulder, and again, open up. If you're not hearing flow, break the seal to make sure that you got flow, and then take them out. So we talked about at this point, face piece off, but with integrity, just replacing it. We talked about face piece still present, but a loss of integrity to the hose and swapping them out. The third option is if this face piece is missing, we can't find it. Maybe it's hanging up into the joist or rafter space where it got hung up. Maybe it's caught under a debris field. Or we have a firefighter mutual aid department that doesn't have a compatible face piece. In other words, they have a completely different manufacturer, whether it's a Scott, whether it's a Draeger, whether it's Interspiral, where we can't swap this out. So the face piece could be present, could be on their face yet, but their regulator's damaged. We don't have the ability to swap this out. So that's one component. Face piece is here, regulator's damaged, but we can't swap it out. Another one might be the face piece again is missing. The advantage of having this set up is if it was a Tulsa and Elm Grove firefighter and that face piece was missing, we'd take this whole assembly, put it on that down firefighter. Again, the advantage, the way we have this configured, you have this handle, it makes it a little bit easier to pull it over the down firefighter's head. And then we have the larger rings here to grab, pull straight back, and get this seal onto their face. So we swap this component out. If, again, things weren't compatible, what we're going to do at that point is we're going to take the whole pack off and connect it to the downed firefighter. So I come to the rescue air pack. Remember our procedures. I need to release the 25. So I release that one component, the working end of the 25 foot. I disconnect it from the pack and I pull the entire bottle out, leaving the 25 foot still in the bag. Now envision, again, this is a third scenario where I have to actually replace the face piece and the MMR, but I don't have the ability to connect up. So this isn't a Tulsa or an Elm Grove firefighter. This is a mutual aid firefighter that doesn't have a quick disconnect on their pack. So it could be an MSA. Brookfield, City of Brookfield doesn't have that. There are some departments, again, that we're going to be working with that are completely different SCBA manufacturers. You can't disconnect their MMR. Envision this is still going to be connected up to the rescue air pack port. The advantage of having this carabiner right now is I can come to the SCBA waist strap, or if you look on my gear, I have the integrated seat harness. I could connect up here, or I could connect up to an escape utility belt. I'm going to take this pack, clip in, and now the bottle's centrally housed. They have air to the face piece and they're breathing off the RIT bottle. Here's your options. If you want to, keep it quick and simple. Connect up to one of those components, seat harness, escape utility belt, or the SCBA waist strap. Whether you keep it in place and just get it really tight around the waist, or if you decide you want to do an SCBA conversion where you run the strap in between the legs, that's your choice. But hook up, grab the shoulder straps, which is what we call a rapid extraction, grab them and go. The disadvantage, I guess, if you're gonna, for argument's sake, is that by having the RIT bottle on and then keeping the down firefighter's SCBA in place, you're gonna have at least another 25 pounds of weight that you're dragging out. And it's also gonna be a bigger profile that you're dragging out. But it's fast. Some firefighters will say, well, if the SCBA at this point is useless, if they're not breathing off it and they're only breathing off the pack, why don't I lighten the load and completely doff this pack? Yes, you can do that. You could remove this SCBA as long as you have a way of connecting this up. So if you had the escape belt on or that seat harness, that would be a quick way to connect this bottle, and you can doff the pack, lighten the load, and drag them out. But remember, you've lost your harness now to drag them out, so you're going to have to come up with another option. The simplest would be using their DRD in the back of the coat. That's what typically comes to mind with a lot of RITs is, okay, if I don't have this available, that's what that drag rescue device is for. I'm going to grab that. Understand this though, that what we're finding is that when firefighters are washing their gear, sometimes they're forgetting to put the DRD back in their coat. Sometimes they're putting it back in their coat, but they're rigging it wrong, so it's not actually working like it's designed to. They might be in spare gear, an older set that doesn't have a DRD. Any one of those in place, you don't have that convenient handle or means of grabbing and pulling this firefighter out, you're going to have to be looking into rigging some type of harness. Now we have our webbing loops on our belts or in our pockets, and we got the additional webbing loops on the RIT pack, but that's going to take time. If it's just a simple drag them out and go, you got 2 firefighters on each shoulder strap, as long as you can secure this is going to be the fastest way to get them out. But you have to make that decision. If you doff the pack, you got to come up with a plan to secure this bottle, which if they don't have a belt, they don't have a harness, you're going to have to find a way to secure this, and then you're going to also have to find a method for dragging them out if they don't have a DRD. In the end, that option is going to come up to the RIT, but just understand the advantages and disadvantages of each procedure when you decide to go with one or the other. Alright, so that pretty much sums up most of our options when this face piece is missing or some components damaged and we can't get air to the face piece. I guess if I was to sum it up, in the end for us, it's really essential that we have a full understanding of all the components within our rescue air pack and how they're utilized for different situations. This isn't the time or place in an emergency setting to think about, okay, this is messed up, what can I do? What do I do next? We just instinctively need to know to go from plan A to plan B to plan C depending on the problems that we're encountering.